And Natalie, you mentioned the MSNBC host. Have a quick look at how one of them, as you said, a charming 13-year-old boy, been through absolute hell to get, this is a highlight of his life, and yet they tried to suggest if he joins the police, he might want to commit suicide one day. This was the most grotesque stuff I think I've ever heard. Have a listen.
I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
So how unhinged do you have to be, Natalie, to go from just a glorious celebration of a young man, which would have been the highlight of his life, possibly, to, oh, he's going to commit suicide one day defending Donald Trump at January 6th type thing? These people are insane, are they not?
I think you're being too kind. They're worse than that. I mean, it's a mask off moment, right? And frankly, it's not just Nicole Wallace. It's not just Rachel Maddow. It's not just the entire, I guess, still employed and laid off staff at MSNBC. It's the entirety of the Democratic Party. I mean, when you look at the things that they refuse to stand for, other young Americans who had been killed at the hands of illegal aliens, a strong economy, it really makes you think that, well, these people actually just hate our country and they're traitors. And frankly, it gives you almost, I would say, deja vu, but I think that's too nice a term. It's more PTSD to sort of the first iteration, the first administration under President Trump, whereby Democrats protested sort of using these resistance tactics, right? The old tricks of the pink hats and the really elaborate displays and street protests. This time, they've sort of opted to oppose President Trump through lawfare, using the courts and suing him for basically every executive order that he puts out. But I think their conduct at that joint session address, and frankly, over the last week or so, it sort of represents, I think, a bit of a divergence from their newfound tactic and playbook of the lawfare stuff. And they're sort of reverting to, I think, their learned behavior, their patterns from 2016, because they're really, really, really desperate. And desperate people make really, really gross, depraved comments like what you just played from Nicole Wallace.
Well, Donald Trump himself was pretty appalled by those comments, and there were similar comments from Rachel Maddow as well. Have a listen to Donald Trump responding to those comments in his typical witty, entertaining way.
Frankly, what Nicole Wallace said, I've never been a fan of hers, and she's not very talented. But I'll tell you, what she said the other day about that young man is disgraceful. She should be forced to resign. And Rachel Maddow should be forced to resign. Nobody watches her anyway.
I mean, Natalie, Donald Trump does seem to be at the absolute pinnacle of his game now. We've never seen him this confident. We've never seen him cracking jokes so happily. The speech was sensational. Give us your summary of that speech and how it's been received.
Well, it's been received absolutely wonderfully. I mean, the polls, even confirmed by CNN and all the legacy media outlets, show approval ratings of 76%. I mean, that's even crazy for me to believe. I guess maybe not when you consider that he won every single swing state, but he really hit every single issue, whether it was the economy, the border, the Ukraine conflict, just general international and national security. He really, I think, had full spectrum dominance on all those issues. And it's quite funny because the refrain that you hear coming from MSNBC so much of the time is the idea that the American people didn't know what they were getting when they voted for President Donald J. Trump, right? They've been duped. They've been conned. I think that's probably just projection. But what he went through in that speech, the selection, the slate of guests that he invited, that is precisely what the American people voted for. And I guess the cherry on top is the rants against Rachel Maddow and Nicole Wallace.
And what was it DJ said to you when you asked him his secret mission?
He loves women.
Ah.
He's quite the player. He's quite the player. He's good riz.
Fantastic. Well, I think sure he's got a great future ahead of him, and I'm sure he'll be a MAGA mascot for years to come. Thank you so much, Natalie Winters, for chatting to us, and we'll see you again next week.